Previously on Capital Punishment. It's 7 p.m. on Friday, January 28th, 2022. Nearly 12 hours after first responders arrived at his home, the Office of the Attorney General released a statement that Wayne Stenjum had died.
The totality of the cost overrun of that building is $1.8 million.
We want to make sure that no one has an opportunity to make an open record request for his emails, especially as he kept everything.
In the final pages of the Montana investigators' report, the agent in charge writes that a lack of policy or failure to follow policy regarding electronic records and their deletion was significant, and that authority or the perception of individuals with authority requesting deletion by IT raises serious questions about the chain of command in Stenjum's office. Bombshell on March 4th. Attorney General Drew Wrigley met with KFGO News Radio to announce Wayne Stenjum's emails were recovered. Not only were the emails retrieved, but text messages and call logs were gathered from an old cell phone a relative of Stenjum's had brought to the Bureau of Criminal Investigation shortly after his death.
If this was anyone else other than the powerful Wayne Stenjum, the powerful Ray Holmberg, would the general public be asking for more information?
I'm Paul Jerkins, the news director at KFGO, and this is Capital Punishment. After a full day of testimony on March 26, Ray Holmberg was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. He pleaded guilty to traveling overseas with the intent of having sex with minors. Our story begins in May of 2022 when police and federal agents searched the once powerful North Dakota State Senator's Grand Forks condo the November before. There, they seized video discs and other items, including electronic devices, after learning Holmberg had traded text messages with a man jailed on child pornography charges. During the raid, Holmberg asked a federal agent for Wayne Stenjum's phone number. Stenjum was Attorney General at the time and a close friend of Holmberg. Holmberg called Stenjum and left a message saying he was in big trouble, but not to tell anyone. When Stenjum didn't call back, Holmberg called his office and told an assistant to whisper in Wayne's ear. Nick the thief did it again. For more, we turn to host of News and Views, Joel Heitkamp, and host of Afternoons Live, Tyler Axness.
Now, in the revelations that came out of all these investigative reports, Joel, is some of the back and forth between Ray Holmberg, former state senator, the charges that brought the guilty plea, and his communications with the Attorney General and Wayne Stenjum. And I think there was an audible gasp when it became revealed that in one of those messages, Ray Holmberg had messaged to Wayne Stenjum saying, Nick the thief did it again.
Well, and of course, all this began there. None of this would have been found out had not this whole thing perpetuated with the man that Ray Holmberg was using as, lack of a better word, a pimp, an evil, I don't know what word you want to use to describe him. I have many that I can't say on this podcast, but this is a man that was bringing and giving Ray Holmberg information dealing with young little boys.
Yeah, and that man being Nick is Nicholas DeRozier, who's in a federal prison for trafficking all these things in this area. And in that message, there's a lot of things we can pull out of it. The fact that it was Nick, so Wayne Stenjum apparently knew who Nick was, the thief being what did he steal, and again, meaning that Ray had at least communicated with Wayne, by assumption, more than once about Nicholas DeRozier and some of the activities that he had been doing, whether that was stealing of property or who knows what else. So it begs the question in all of this, when Nick the thief did it again, and then after that, a car ride with Ray Holmberg and Nicholas DeRozier going to Wayne Stenjum's office, what was the intent of that meeting?
Well, in a little bit, we're going to talk about that 34,000 pages of discovery in the indictment. But, a lot of information went into the garbage basket when it came to all this. And I think they must assume that we're pretty naive if they believe that, the individuals that were working in Wayne Stenjum's office, actually didn't protect Wayne. They rushed in on a weekend right after he died. Right after he died to get rid of this. And Troy Seibel now is dead. Yeah. His deputy is dead. You got Liz Brocker, his closest confidant and the one that basically, in my opinion, ran the Attorney General's office, now working for the Burleigh County State's Attorney's Office. And a lot of the information that made reference to this that the U.S. Attorney's Office relied upon was information that came through that office.
Holmberg was indicted on a child sex tourism and child pornography charges in October of 2023. Federal prosecutors cited 34,000 pages of discovery in the indictment. Holmberg pleaded guilty to the child sex tourism charge in August of last year in exchange for the child porn charges being dropped. Prosecutors agreed, and Judge Daniel Hovland allowed Holmberg to wait to be sentenced while he was on supervised release. But despite being warned, Holmberg continued to violate the terms of his release. He was caught accessing the internet to watch YouTube videos that included titles such as gay romance. Although he denied it, he also went to Romantics in Grand Forks and went to visit his sister in West Fargo without approval. Eventually, Judge Hovland ordered him to turn himself in. On November 1st of last year, less than 3 months after admitting to repeatedly traveling to Prague with the intent of having sex with minors, Ray Holmberg was taken into custody by U.S. Marshals.
The point that was just made is one where Ray Holmberg, the information was already getting out there of what Ray Holmberg admitted to doing, pleading guilty to that child sex tourism charge and getting what many thought, and I commented on, Tyler, as a break in that sentence.
Very much a break. In fact, I mean, listeners of our talk shows on the home base of KFGO here talked about this is a slap on the wrist. We're talking about 3 years with all the traveling that he did to abuse young boys. And then some of that being done on state taxpayer dime. Now, that slap on the wrist also allowed him to basically have home confinement, which was supposed to be supervised, and some could say that it was lack supervision for some extent of it because Ray wasn't adhering to what the court demanded, that you will not get online, you will not travel, you will not go to stores that have anything sexually related, and he was doing at least all three of those multiple times.
Well, it goes to the sheer arrogance of all of that power for all that time. I mean, here's a man who took a pedophile, a man that was bringing him little boys, and he took him to the Attorney General's office.
Yeah.
Talk about ultimate connections, the chief law enforcement officer for the state of North Dakota. And then when he got out, Ray being the individual with all of that power that was given to him, this is a man who didn't feel still he had to live by life's rules.
That's right. And in fact, in some of those 34,000 plus discovery documents and some of the communication that was revealed about having all this power and being able to do whatever the hell you want, that mentality didn't stop with these charges. It continued on, and I think you're going to learn a little bit later on, it continued on through this whole court proceeding and the sentencing and the type of way in which he approached the very serious claims and questions that a judge was asking him, and his, quote, bravado that was used and just locker room talk.
Well, and I would add to that, my criticism often on air, and I heard you do some of the same, in regards to the U.S. Attorney's Office, in regards to the Attorney General's Office, in regards to a lot of people when it comes to this. We're going to find out that they were doing their job later on, but I was mad as a hornet when I found out that Ray Holmberg had been basically cheating in regards to the agreement he made. No complaints here when he finally got thrown in jail.
No, not at all. In fact, people were demanding it when it was discovered that he was going to an adult bookstore, when he was traveling to Fargo, when he was going online and looking at things about young boys kissing for their first time, some of those search histories, that was absolutely prohibited. He got caught. They kind of said, stop it. Got caught again. Finally, Judge Hovland ordered, look, you got to turn yourself in or we're going to come and get you.
Well, and people can say that I've been partisan through this. They can say you've been partisan through this. The fact of the matter is Ray Holmberg's in jail for abusing little boys. And I would also add this. What brought about all this, what brought about the fact that he felt he could do all of this was the power that he had been given by the GOP to look the other way.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, the North Dakota GOP, when they take a step back, has to look at this whole thing and say, how in the world did we give all of those guys from Grand Forks that much power?
Days before sentencing, acting U.S. Attorney Jennifer Poole released a sentencing memo that included information that was already known, along with several new and explosive facts. Starting as early as 2011, Holmberg traveled under the name Sean Evans, an alias he used while committing his crimes. Holmberg booked a room at Villa Mansland a brothel in Prague where he said he received massages with happy endings and where staff knew him only as Sean Evans. It was at Villa Mansland where he learned he could pick up underage prostitutes at a nearby park. Holmberg traveled to Prague at least 14 times, including in 2016 when he brought a UND student along. More from Tyler Axtis and Joel Heitkamp.
Now, Joel, in this, the sentencing memo that became released after this trial got underway once Ray Holmberg was in custody, the revelations of 14 times traveling over to Prague to a place that was Villa Mansland, which is a brothel, as you just heard here. And knowing that of those 14 times, we've talked at length in previous podcasts of this capital punishment that Global Bridges took state dollars from North Dakota taxpayers to get Ray Holmberg over to these areas to abuse these young men.
And all of that got funneled to the North Dakota School Board Association because, again, they had the power. Bob Martinson, his brother, ran the North Dakota School Board Association. Bob Martinson, probably the most powerful member of the North Dakota House, also a very strong member of the North Dakota GOP. Once again, Ray Holmberg, got the money to the North Dakota School Board Association so Ray could travel on our dime.
Go travel on our dime, not report back on anything that was doing, aside from texting and sending emails to his friends in close confidence.
Yeah.
And having the gruesome details and treating these young individuals like they were nothing but meat.
And a lot of people played a role in that could see it. I got criticized because of speculation I had. And, I'll live with that. I mean, Bruce Jovig is in the report. Jim Pullman was in the suite with the president for a long time. Will Swearson, who came on my show, was that UND student that was just talked about. That young man has and is going to struggle with his life forever because of this. And, of course, he was in that UND president's suite with Ray and in a relationship with Jim Pullman.
We've gotten heat for, being accused of being partisan. And I've also gotten heat for making sure that there's been focus on the University of North Dakota. Ray Holmberg and those pals of his were running around and using UND, in my term, as a grooming grounds for these young individuals. They were going on fraternity row is what people have been reporting on. And it went on for so long. We're talking decades here. And because of that power that Ray Holmberg had accumulated over those decades, nobody wanted to report or say anything. And when they did, that was basically just brushed aside.
And if there's nothing else that we can accomplish in this conversation through capital punishment, to get the word out, give people a window of what happened, but to have the listeners of this podcast realize it's their job as citizens as well, and now with this knowledge, to never let somebody get that type of power again.
Yeah.
In 2019, Holmberg emailed a Slovakian man asking for a boy to have sex with. His emails referencing sex with boys were not limited to people overseas. He also sent emails to others bragging about having sex with minors. In an email to a cooperating witness, Holmberg said the boys rented around $60. Sex is extra. Judge Hovland asked Holmberg about the emails and why he would brag about having sex with boys. Holmberg dismissed it as bravado and locker room talk. Hovland pointed out that he's never sentenced someone who bragged about their sex crimes, adding that people tend to downplay the severity of their crimes. Holmberg is not appealing the sentence, and 10 years in federal prison is typically straight time. He's now 80 in the federal medical prison in Rochester, Minnesota.
We both were in that courtroom. We both were there for the sentencing. We both had radio shows to do. So I missed the morning part. Tyler, you missed the afternoon.
I missed the afternoon when the build-up and the ramp-up of what was being on full display from the prosecution, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the line of questioning and evidence that they're bringing forward, again, just left everyone feeling uncomfortable. I was sitting behind Ray Holmberg in his attire of being an inmate and trying to get the reaction of him hearing the accusations of what he did. In fact, the things that he pled guilty to. And there didn't seem to be much remorse. There just seemed to be like, this is locker room talk. I had to go do my show when you took over, and you got to see the conclusion of this when you have Judge Hovland now finally addressing Ray Holmberg, who's an inmate of federal prison, and the behavior on display was like what?
Yeah, Judge Hovland and what he had to deal with throughout this whole circumstance. I just want to add this, that those corroborating witnesses, they were asked not to give out their names. They wanted the media that was in the room, they specifically asked, don't give out our names. Well, the pain that they were going through from that podium as they told the story of what Ray had done to their life, as they told the story of what many people had done to their lives, it was pain that you can't hide. It was pain that's going to scar them forever. And Judge Hovland could see it. I don't know how much that affected him. I do know this, that when you give out the most severe penalty you can, whatever Ray Holmberg had to say that day, he was unimpressed with.
Unimpressed, and you're right, going above even federal guidelines to getting the max of which he could give to Ray Holmberg because he didn't show any remorse. To have those victims be in that courtroom explaining what happened to them, and then for Ray Holmberg to brush it aside, joke about how federal prison beds are more comfortable than the ones at the men's villa over in Prague. He did not feel as though he did anything wrong in his time over there.
Yeah, talk about bravado, locker room talk, all of those type of things, as though he didn't hear the pain in those victims' voices in the room. I will say this, that when it comes to his sentencing, I was surprised because my thought was that, he making a deal in regards to I'll plead guilty wasn't going to give him the max. But Judge Hovland, man, he was ticked off.
He was very ticked. And, I think that the public listening to this has been ticked off for quite some time. I think there was relief is how I describe it from people once that sentencing came down, that, you know what, nope, you're getting above and beyond what this agreement was. Also set the stage where a lot of people that follow criminal justice thought that there would automatically be an appeal.
Yeah.
That Ray Holmberg would go ahead and say, well, this is my opportunity. They didn't, Joel.
Yeah. This is one piece of the conversation, folks, that we're going to have. We're going to have more as we close out and hopefully close out. Hopefully there isn't more information to come out, but we need to talk more on the next capital punishment about the players' roles, and what potentially is still out there.
Capital Punishment is a KFGO News Radio production and is hosted by me, Paul Juergens. Created by Tasha Carvel and Eric Johnson. Written by Ryan Janke. Produced by Eric Johnson and Abby Miller, with contributions from Joel Heitkamp and Tyler Axness.